Yes, this is me coming through with yet another Marvel Rivals video. They just keep dropping cosmetics that I am into and I can't help but to want to talk about. So come play catch up with me for season 3 into a little bit of season 4. And since I'm so fucking far behind, I'm going to approach this somewhat in order of release, starting with this symbiote collection and looking at Raccoon. Just the old black silhouette is what really struck me when I first saw this collection from afar. Getting close up, knowing that it's like symbiote oriented, it's just the little teeth elements that bother me. It's not so bad in his design. His, I think, is maybe the cleanest. It gets a little much for me as we keep going. Like, Groot is an absolute atrocious. I think that this is one of the ugliest skins that I've ever seen across video games. It looks like a whole different, he looks like a creature, like some sort of like maybe epic creature you'd fight in the jungle of like a 5 versus 5 arena game. Absolutely can't stand it. Even though I don't typically like to cover animal characters, especially like Jeff, when they don't have some sort of like outfit or just something more style fashion to talk about, I just really do appreciate the kind of killer whale transformative take on his aesthetic. I think Captain America's design is also a good, clean, sleek, black variation and kind of take with regard to this theme. It's still very true to his overall default outfit and like uniform super suit structure. I love Storm's variation. When I saw this from afar, I was like, this is so sleek and sharp. Again, very save the day, as really most of these were, just from like very superhero, super comic kind of universe theme. I just still love how it really draws attention to her sleek silhouette. It does feel glamorous, especially with the hairstyle. I would love to see this hairstyle used on something else. I feel like it's a little lost here. The teeth elements aren't too bad, but when we get to Squirrel Girl, I was really bummed because, again, I was really into the concept of that all black sleek silhouette, and we get it from her, and it really just helps me appreciate her design and structure so much more. But it's the tail transformed into some sort of like Venus symbiote flytrap situation. It's absolutely hideous. And then this Iron Man design, I think, is an interesting take on that, just with more of a natural form. I'm just not into these types of looks and aesthetics. It's really not doing much for me. It's cool. It's much different from what we've been getting in his catalog thus far, but not really like my style, my taste, my fashion. Then we get into this Phoenix Force. I swear, between the symbiote and the Phoenix Force, I wasn't really into talking about these. Just because, I mean, this is so save the day supersuit. I don't really get much of an epic vibe from most of these, outside of maybe just those interesting flame accents and elements on top of their designs. And the gold is obviously a great contrast to the black, but I'm not really feeling like the suit within itself is innovative. I think it's actually rather flat, and I think that's a consistent theme in terms of my feedback and my sentiment with regard to this overall collection. Wolverine is actually one of my least favorite out of this whole collection. It just feels like so much coming at you. It just feels like such a clash. I don't feel like we really give room for any of the colors to really thrive as the dominant. It just feels like so much. I do like that the kind of wings or the kind of phoenix upward shape is mirrored in his mask and then in his chest. But outside of that, I mean, like Iron Fist, yeah, these just feel like glorified color swaps. And this is when we're starting to get into, okay, Marvel Rivals is pumping out these cosmetics, but it's like, are they very inspired? Like, I'm not inspired by this. I think it looks great, but is it really worth it for like a truly novel design? Black Widow gets a little different than what we've seen from her in terms of her collection so far. I would say particularly it's the interesting cutout design within her body with just some of that body confidence coming through. That's a nice touch. And then the hooded element definitely makes her feel so much more sniper assassin-esque, but it does feel very save the day supersuit-ish. A little bit of maybe like I can give it some benefit of like current experimental cutout fashion and style. I don't know. And then Namor, even though I have this cosmetic, I think I have all of them just because I did the whole battle pass for it, but I was just a little underwhelmed. I'm just kind of like, okay, I do love the shorter hairstyle, and I think that the kind of phoenix wing elements on his ankles is a nice touch, as well as in his chest, but it's kind of like, Magick is really the only character giving us some sort of like true fashion angle and element here. Really loving more of like a dress style with that jacket to kind of almost serve as a contrast and a juxtaposition to that. Not only in terms of just overall kind of like style and aesthetic, but also in terms of just like length, dimension, really loving that. A little more fashion, a lot more fashion than the other ones. Then we get into these interesting like hybrid ones in the case of Winter Soldier, and I think that this is interesting. What I cannot stand about this design is the beak like element to his mask. That takes me completely out of it. even with regard to like Venom, and we'll get there, it's just when the phoenix or like the bird elements are too pronounced, it feels like it really takes away from the kind of edginess of these looks to me. Loving the contrast between like that gold and the black. And that feedback kind of carries over to Venom's, as extravagant and I think really interesting as this is. I think it actually really embodies the true synthesis and like union of the kind of symbiote energy and form with the Phoenix elements. But the Phoenix elements are so pronounced. It just feels almost like peacocky roosterish more than anything, which is taking me out. But I love that we get a glimpse of the man behind Venom. Love that we get some human component to this. And here this introduces Blade, and you know, as far as like a default outfit, cool. This definitely fits something that we would expect that's like almost a little bit of like future punk sci-fi, matrixy, like, I don't know, I feel like I was maybe expecting something a little bit different from his overall design, but I think it checks the box. It's just not fully the Blade that I envisioned, I don't know. And I guess why I felt maybe Blade is really weird to me, okay? Because then we get into this design, which I think is really great. So extravagant, very royal. Again, loving that contrast between like symbiote and Phoenix energy. But he kind of like, does he not look a little Black Panther-ish? And then we get into Phoenix, and this is again why I just didn't feel like talking about this like season 3 in general. It just felt very like, I couldn't stand the theme, I couldn't stand just the style. It just all felt very super suitish, very genuine, like comic book battle, instead of like, I mean, such a far cry from Hellfire Gala season 2. So her Jean's default is very true to, I think, her color scheme, like a little bit of her full suited situation. I also can't stand the fact that they have the Phoenix essence there with her. Like, I would have loved if that was maybe more of an ability or component that came to life in being activated versus a constant element. I don't know, like season 3 just was not doing it for me. Oh, I meant to talk about this one in the Immortal section, but it's worth getting a break of a design that I actually really like. Now I feel like we're starting to get, there's plenty of style to come. This is definitely a great indication of like back to fashion in season 4. I just really love this. It's super suit-esque, it's borderline save the day, but you'd be surprised how powerful that belt is in terms of just adding some additional decorative touch that just feels so chic. I can't even describe it. I think it's more so just the way it kind of falls to one side. It's just such a nice, subtle, effortlessly chic decorative element. And even her, I think it's her hairstyle that's really selling it, which is better than the legendary skin that she currently has. Because I don't know what it is with these headpieces on these female characters. I'm gonna get there with Emma Frost. And also just the hairstyle, like this one just feels tacky compared to the one we just saw. I understand the more kind of glamorous, phoenixy angle, the purple. I just think it's ugly, kind of actually. And it doesn't even really strike me as something that is much more fashion than just like a glorified, semi-glamorous take on like a super suit. I don't really know. This one's not doing it. And even Emma Frost couldn't really entice me with regard to season 3. This one, I feel like, is a good indication of what we're starting to really see as her core silhouette. We're gonna get a tall boot, that kind of tailcoat situation, and then some sort of exaggerated, assertive shoulder, just to really enforce the fact that she is a Vanguard role. And it's predictable. I think it is nice with the additional cutout elements, and I think that the white and gold is especially a nice contrast from what everybody else has been having. And I like the hairstyle, obviously, even though I feel like you got a taste of it before. But I don't know, it just like didn't strike me as like super fashion. Again, it's just super suit, save the day. But then when we got to Cloak and Dagger, I was like, praise the Lord. And the fact that they were like such a premier package cosmetic deal, obviously I bought it. Like, I'm officially a Cloak and Dagger main these days. Like, they are just so much easier to play on a Steam Deck, aiming wise, because I have challenges with that. Anyway, love this. I will say that I feel like Cloak is a little recycled from his core default framework, and this is where we're starting to get like Marvel Rivals can only pump out so many cosmetics without, I feel like, kind of finding some shortcuts. It's really Dagger that's doing the carrying here. Love the different hairstyle, love the overall different aesthetic. Feels very, I always say Mediterranean with regard to things like this, but like European, Mediterranean, like a little bit of maybe hint to Asian-esque. Like, it's definitely not Tandy Bowen. So anyway, I just love this. Then we get into an old man streak, a little bit of like a mini collection, and I feel like this is a very natural look on Doctor Strange, and if it really leans into a little bit more of, I feel like, that mage-oriented aspect. I love just that kind of blue, white, kind of blue purplish, that kind of color scheme, just to really indicate a mage. And I also just like when it is almost a little bit of the stereotypical white-haired sage type character that is, and like the mage archetype. And I like it as far as this maestro aesthetic for Bruce and the Hulk. I think I feel like it makes Bruce look like very much like an aged kind of hippie character guy. Not so much nerdy as like hippie, but I feel like that's an interesting aesthetic for him to adorn, and only just kind of further rounds out the honestly multiple different aesthetics and like personas that he's been embodying so far. Love the range they're giving him, and it even shows up in an interesting way in the Hulk form. And I love that the Hulk form just feels a little bit more genuine, clothed and suited. Obviously the top is torn, but we're still getting some decorations to kind of fill it in. It's not just this big green body coming at us and all these tattered elements. It still feels a little bit more put together. So I think that gives it a little bit more points. And then Hawkeye is looking so fresh, and it's from the Wasteland like collection. So we're definitely getting some of that marauder, some of that rugged, some of that very obviously distressed and tattered look, very rough, very survival-esque. But I think what got me the most was the flare that they gave at the bottom of the pants. I just love a flared pant, number one, and it just adds, you'd be surprised how such a subtle design element like that could just really make this feel so much more sharp. Star-Lord, I mean, so many of these so far, and I haven't said it explicitly, are from comics. So like they're just almost genuinely refreshed straight from the comics with not as much style, like differentiated kind of like extra stylized touch that I like to see Marvel rivals in these games kind of add if they're reimagining. This is, I feel like, a little bit of the case to me in like in regard to Star-Lord. So, and then Ultron, the most we're getting here is just like an extra tattered technological look with a cloak. Like, but Penny's is cute. It's just like, okay, she's been needing to get more cosmetics anyway. And I feel like this is a little bit of like kind of like tinkerish garage, kind of mech worker builder kind of girl. And it's nice, but it's still kind of cutesy for her overall kind of style. Color scheme is just so blah, so flat, so ugh. And then this Magneto one is, I mean, just a very classic throwback. Not much more to say about it. Love the purple. Very OG. I just really like the chains and how those are like the discs that are typically behind him. And I feel like it being chains kind of shows a little bit of like that room for development into something even more extravagant, like his more modern styles and designs. So just the small things. This Moon Knight mech skin, not usually one for those armored looks, especially when it comes to like games where characters only look like this. But this is such a nice variation and change, still giving us more of that kind of true to white aesthetic and style that is very much Moon Knight. But I love all of those rounded, sharp, circular, half circle, crescent accents and motifs sprinkled throughout. Feels very Gundam Wing kind of mech fighter-esque, which is obviously the vibe. Just so cool to look at. Back into the realm of swimsuits, and I was surprised to see that the thing got a second beachy kind of summery themed look. This one's so much more cultural and traditional, but I really do feel like there is a bit of a modern twist, which I've always say I love that kind of modern classic hybrid design and aesthetic, just as we see through the additional accessories. And I would even say the overall fit of the outfit, it's not too loose. It doesn't feel like a costume. It actually just feels like a nice kind of like native pieces that he brought together, but still kind of emulates that cultural aesthetic and spirit. So, and I already touched on Punisher in my last video, just the concept art, but to see it full body, like absolutely excellent. Cannot celebrate these looks enough. And speaking of body, I love this Sue Storm look. But what I really love is just how it kind of has that one, it's asymmetrical, has one little cutout on one of the sides or the hips, and then just that amazing ruffle on one shoulder, and just how it's long sleeve in general. I feel like any attempt to kind of give some upper body coverage is at least kind of meeting us halfway with some level of modesty, in addition, in concert with all the body confidence. I love when they do that, and I feel like that's what they're doing for her. I feel like it's very flattering. I feel like it makes sense for her character, and it's so cute. Again, already touched on Johnny Storm, and I guess I wanted to talk about it again because after seeing it in like a three-dimensional model form, it very much reminds me of like this early 2000s cool, like cool guy, sporty cool guy archetype, just with like a little bit more of a spikier hairstyle. And then we have Mantis, and similar feedback I'm carrying through from Sue Storm, where I like when there's, even if it's transparent or translucent, when there's just a little extra decorative or design touch of coverage, just to kind of make it feel like there's at least some modesty coming through on these characters. Like Mantis is by default, especially in her original design, more modest, not as much of that body coming at you like maybe say a Luna Snow or a Psylocke. So I love that even though this is plenty bold, plenty body confident, we still get some of those extra touches. Then touching on the Fantastic Four cinematic universe suits collectively, I like the roundedness of them. I like the kind of like almost 50s-ish throwback style to them. My only notes are, this is, I'd say, my favorite full-bodied suit design for the Thing. It's interesting, this Pedro Pascal look-alike kind of situation that they managed to kind of squeeze in there. I thought that was clever. It's a nice ranging aesthetic for Mr. Fantastic. I just like Johnny's more kind of like preppier vibe, I think, in this aesthetic and suit. And then Sue Storm, I just like her hairstyle. I like the like softer, bunchier curl. So I hope that they can kind of play with that a little bit more in future designs. Looking at this Loki skin, honestly, I was a bit underwhelmed, and I was a little, maybe also a little confused. This is kind of almost still giving a little bit of that Phoenix energy. And maybe that's the point, just to kind of evolve from the thought of like Phoenix rebirth and like immortality. I don't really know, but I don't think I don't think I like it. And he actually reminds me of the League of Legends character. He very much looks like that character re-envisioned and kind of like transformed into a Marvel Rivals universe. So, okay, oops, just kidding. This Hela skin is from season 3, but I started in this area to kind of rank some of the top skins that like, and how they resonate based on how they resonate with me. Hela has been getting some incredible treatment, and I'm loving it for her. First of all, her shape, her structure, her attitude, her energy is so conducive to a variety of different aesthetics, if done right, to be almost the chicest female character in the Marvel Rivals universe, and they're doing her so much justice. And what I love about this design is the fact that like those little spiral elements, which could seem kind of maniacal, chaotic, like wild, chaotic, I feel like she still has her tight, contained structure and silhouette, and that the spirals almost complement that and function as a nice contrast and juxtaposition versus amplifies and makes it too whimsical or silly, maniacal dark. You know what I mean? But this grim lady look, giving us some European Victorian touch and kiss, and if there's anybody who can kind of embody that, it's obviously her, and it's genuine fashion, and this is like, she's obviously continued to consistently serve that. It was only really initially where she had kind of more of that like armored fighter, super suit villain-esque kind of style, but they're giving her the glamorous high fashion luxury treatment, and she absolutely deserves it. The ruffles, the hat, I think for me is what's really doing it, and it's really the pants and how they have that like cut out at the knee with a little bit of a sheer element towards the bottom, like it's, and then the corset element obviously, but how then it goes into her typical kind of cape. It's just all around 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 even, like. And then that brings us into Daredevil, and to be completely honest with you, I'm not fully familiar with Daredevil's lore kind of concept. I think we know that he's blind. I think he's the one who's blind, right? It's an interesting take and function and mechanic of his character in general. So I'm just like digging him as a concept, and I'm curious to see how he can evolve to kind of embody that kind of devil-esque form, but hopefully in increasingly chic ways. I will say that I think this mech suit armored situation, again, I'm not always the one for armor, but I just love the take on the horns in this case. It just feels very like cyberpunk, like robo demon kind of situation, and I think that that's a really interesting design. I think those holographic elements are a really nice, radiating like hypnotic contrast to the deep red that is default to his design. Anyway, I don't want to over elaborate on armored looks, but this one was a little bit more interesting than I thought it was. I swear, between Luna Snow and Psylocke, like we know we're gonna get a look. Kind of reminds me of like Ari and Seraphine from League of Legends. Like we know they're gonna get a cute new look frequently, and it's just gonna fit them. And I feel like this fits Psylocke's style, and it just gives her yet more flex and range. I think it could be perceived as maybe a little cliche to kind of box her into that kind of cutesy, like Asian style, like all the different takes on it, a little bit of K-poppy here and there as well. But I just really love this cyberpunk, futuristic, biker, babe kind of twist to her. I feel like it's a lot of body confidence coming through, and especially with like the little kind of high underwear piece around the hips, but there's just enough coverage. I feel like it's well balanced. Angela was an unexpected addition to the hero roster, and I saw some kind of rumblings about it in like articles, but to see the final product and the actual character and actually play her might be a new one that I'm kind of like faving and kind of keeping a close eye on for now, because I just love the strong, assertive female, still very feminine, but just well-defined, well-structured, so sexy, and I'm very curious to see how they can adorn her in a variety of different things, similar to Emma Frost, but I mean, almost even more so from the body perspective. Like, I think they can do some really interesting things to play up her shape and her form separately from what they're kind of doing with Emma Frost, and I just really love her as an addition to the Vanguard female roster. And I feel like this cosmetic really captures what I was getting at. Almost kind of reminds me of Angel Woman from Digimon. Like, it didn't hit me until I actually just took another look at it. Just with that kind of like futuristic, techie, it's really just the silhouette and the headpiece in this case that's giving it. And I wouldn't even mind more suits on her like this, just to really complement that shape and figure that she has. I don't know, really excited to see a refreshing change from what we've been kind of getting, and more mature too. But speaking of Emma Frost, I am starting to see that kind of similar structure. It's the tall boots, it's the short kind of unitard one piece kind of situation, and then we're gonna get some sort of tail or cape, and then those exaggerated shoulders. Once I start seeing that too much, it kind of takes me out of, it makes me a little disillusioned with her overall designs. Although I do love more of the kind of like techie, holographic, brighter neon color situation going on here against the black. Similar to Phoenix with regarded like this crown headpiece. I don't like how that looks. It just looks so costumey and tacky in contrast to what could otherwise be potentially chic outfits and designs. And I feel like that's kind of what's going on here. Like, it's not fully doing it for me. The only thing that's saving it for me is the fact that she looks like Seraphine from KDA All Out. I feel like the fact that Emma looks like she could be one of the KDA All Out girlies and really embody some of that vibe, even though they look way better than this, lets me kind of accept it somewhat begrudgingly. But I just feel like they clean it up. Now talk about clean it up. With regard to Luna Snow, it's almost the messiness of this, and I even felt like some of those other symbiote Phoenix combinations were messy. It's the messiness of this that is actually really working for me, on top of the perfect aligned duality of like ice and fire and like clean and pure versus like symbiotic and like rugged and like it just is perfect. And she reminds me of a character I think from Mobile Legends that swaps between like healing and attacking and damage, and has like a very consistent strong duality situation, similar to Luna Snow but more exaggerated like this. And I just love that she reminds me of that. Then we have Scarlet Witch, and like this is a freaking look, and look at how not too wild over the top, I feel like crazy like layers and stacks of like over stylization is going on here. It's clean, it's chic, it's elegant, and it's very much Scarlet Witch. But what I love the most about this is that it brings her out of that red. We were getting so fatigued by the red, like same silhouette, almost like blending together. Completely takes her out of it. And I feel like a pinkish purple color scheme is very adjacent enough and kind of gives the same mystical, magical essence as red at times. So this is a great color territory to kind of bring her into. Love the change in the hairstyle. It just also embodies a little bit of that kind of like holographic color spectrum touch to it. Gold heels, she's high fashion. But I think I was most excited to see Storm's look here. I said previously, I feel like Marvel Rivals like low-key be delivering me what I want, like indirectly, like telepathy. Obviously, like probably never seen my videos, but like I just love that the things that I said before come to pass. I said I want something softer for Storm. More especially what I'm loving about it is the fact that it's similar to Doctor Strange, moving into that kind of like bluish, purplish territory, which I feel like are colors that truly embodies mysticism, magic, mage. She comes from a line of mages. Like, she should be getting more interesting looks like this, and I love when they give her a look that doesn't have that big exaggerated cape all the time. Like, this is so perfect. Very body confident, a little Carnival-esque, which almost feels a little bit Caribbean, which I think is an interesting kind of like work here, especially with like the animal elements. But wait, there's more, and they just keep pumping out these skins. I just figured I would just try to absorb this into this current video and film this separately. I don't feel like standing up. Just gonna give you a sit down, but let me know if you like this form, this kind of setup. It's a little easier for me, so I might actually just roll with this if we're into the vibe. But anyway, let's get back into these skins, starting with Thor and like this kind of racetrack, mechanic, kind of rugged style. Love it. Rugged, so in line with his ongoing aesthetic and personal style, but it gives us something more modern and contemporary. Anything that can break us out of that typical armored, mythology, god-oriented, classic comic look that we associate with him, I appreciate. And it feels just so him. Backward cap, like just suit off the body, but still some coverage, not just full chest. It's checking a lot of boxes for me. And then we get into Squirrel Girl. Yes, give her that body confidence because she can absolutely work it with her very unique figure and silhouette. Similar to Thor, she just kind of has like the upper part. Actually, just looks like it's kind of a jacket wrapped around the waist. Something going on there. Love a jacket wrapped around the waist. Just gives a little bit more dimension and just kind of breaks it up and makes it not feel so flat. I've said this many times before, but I called out with regard to her a while back that bring her into all these different themes. They're starting to roll out different themes. That's what we can expect from like these team battle games. So I love it, but it doesn't feel so kitschy and it doesn't feel too costumey. It just feels so style. It feels so her, and I cannot wait to continue to see how they just decorate her and give her so much fashion. I don't typically cover Jeff, but when it's cute, it's cute. I mean, they're really hitting it home with the cutesy factor with him, and they honestly are really working. Love the little pumpkin costume. It's cute. Namor is absolutely perfect for, I'm just going to assume is like this Dia de los Muertos kind of theme for Halloween. And I love that they brought that in, and not just like this cliche, super like overdone costumes that we've seen and gotten from, like, across characters in a number of different franchises for Halloween. Like, This just feels custom, it feels tailored, and it feels culturally appropriate for the character. I just think it brings him into a new aesthetic. I'm loving more of like the longer hairstyle, not the ponytail, even though I love the cut, the shorter cut, and the like fish bone skull motif on his shoulder. It just feels more exaggerated and just gives so much more presence to him and just breaks up his silhouette out of what we've gotten from him so far. So anyway, love this. And same thing with Penny Parker. Such a shame we don't get to see her actual character design and things like this, because her outfit is so cute. Like a dress, like this is the cutest outfit that she's been given so far. Such a shame we lose it behind her overall mech, but the mech is cute too. It just doesn't capture, I feel like, as much of the fun whimsy that she has, although there's some, I think, some motifs on it, but she's really taking the cake here. Now, this is much more along the lines of what I expected out of a Blade skin. Like, it feels so much more sleek. It doesn't feel so like padded and ridged. That was what was getting me with regard to the last one. Blade has a sleek, long trench coat. And I love in this case that it's like more of like a vest coat. I want to see more of this. I'm just acknowledging this Spider-Man skin because it's new. I'm assuming this is like a werewolf, were-spider situation. Hideous, can't stand it. You'll never catch me using this one. So when I played Marvel Zombies, which is a nice PvE experience, although extremely repetitive after a certain amount of time, I clearly was like wondering, would this Scarlet Witch skin become available? And lo and behold. But I mean, for an epic, sure. It follows her silhouette, but just gives her more of a genuine, like regular practical outfit. So I appreciate that. The zombie elements make it a little bit more tattered. I could go without this current hairstyle, something a little bit more flowy, like Phoenix in her more kind of Phoenix Force. Like just the more blowout would have been nice instead of this like tendril Medusa situation. I don't want to overthink it, but it works. But the literal best for last in this regard, aside from Storm, when I saw this Iron Man skin drop, instant purchase. And I don't even play him that regularly, but I said from the very beginning, I think one of my first videos, let's get him full body. We don't need the armor. When you get the Iron Man suit, you're just going to get different derivatives of it in different colors or maybe some different shapes. It gets repetitive. Let's see the man behind that technology and that genius. So Tony Stark, so fresh, so fly. I feel like you could see this suit on pretty much any character in a game like this. So it's not really so much the suit within itself, but it's just the shoes, the gold accents and hardware, the open chest, and how the tech is integrated within and around him. It just is so smart, so simple, but just so attractive. And I just love everything about it. I've been playing him more than I ever have before. All right, that was a lot to get through, and I actually took a bit longer to talk through many of these than I actually wanted to, but I really want to catch up. I love this game. I love playing it. I love the aesthetics. I love the potential, and I just hope that they don't fall off. But this does prompt me to want to look more into Overwatch too, just because I know that they're still kicking. There's still a strong player base there, and I'm hoping that their aesthetics can kind of like take some notes from our rivals. But anyway, I'm curious to see what you have to say in the comments. I'm glad to catch up and good to see you again. And until the next video, I'll talk to you later.